all my tapes, I can't get all this on it. I wrote about mind control murders. Larry Flint was shot while I was doing a book in Marietta. I'm just going to make this short. I've got it on so many and they cut off before I can make my point. The person that shot him in 78 was programmed to shoot him. I was flown out there during the political campaign to replace Larry McDonald, Congressman Doctor, who I'd written about, and his plane was shot down by the Russians. He was on that KAL-007 that went down in the ocean en route from Juneau, Alaska to Seoul, South Korea. So I was flown out there in a campaign to replace him, and Larry Flint furnished me a car for a short time, and, for a year. I never saw him again, but that came to me in April of '84, the endorsement. So this is my father. I found out after then. I never knew about my real identity till after then. That would have been late '83. This is my dad, Edward VIII. This is my Aunt Georgia O'Keefe. My mom is Claudia Ruth O'Keefe, married to my dad back then. She's Irish-American. And thus, this woman, Wallace Simpson, who history tells you married my father, and he abdicated and became the Duke and Duchess of Windsor, is all a lie. This is an imposter. This 100-year seal, why do you think they would put a 99-year seal on total lies and a forced takedown? My uncle helped in it, illegal George VI. This is the family I was brought to, Lina Dempsey. This is me. She killed her twins. The family covered it up. This is Carl Preston. They even changed the name of the twins, not the name, the dates of birth to fit with the date they gave me when they kidnapped me. So anyway, this is mind control murder here I'd written about, and these are later. This is Mark Kelly, who's married to Gabby Gifford, who was a congresswoman from Tucson. Mark Kelly is a twin to Scott. Now, this is my sons, Mark and Scott. Mark, and then Scott, and me, heirs. And, of course, they gave me the name of a twin here. Now, then, what I wanted to get to, if I can on this, was my ex-husband had come back to live when I moved into from Moonraker. And Larry Flynn had already been shot, and so much was happening to me and my sons. And got a letter from the FBI and all that. Was lured mid-March out to his sisters in Abilene, Laura, Mae, Childers, Klein. They had CPA firms. When I got out there, I'd just spoken to her before I left. When I got out there to Dallas and told her I'd be there in a few hours, suddenly her attitude changed. She told me to go back. And I got back, and they had allowed my ex-husband to come in and take my furniture, put a new lease in his name using my deposit, and I couldn't even get a key when I came back. And I was just gone a few days out there and turned around and come back. Antifreeze was put in me, and here's what this has been an April Fool joke, that they could kidnap me and do this to me. I went for a tox screen because I knew that I was in bad trouble, whatever had been put in me. And therein lies being the things that are so unbelievable, the things that happen in plain sight. And this woman, Lina, I was put in her car, shoved in her car, and taken across the state line in that condition. She's trying to kill me because she killed her twins. And I was taken there near Cortland Air Base there in '41. And given the name of Peggy Ann Dempsey, and I married Childers. So she was afraid if the book was published, I didn't know that then, that it would all be exposed and she'd face the gas chamber. So here's what I wanted to say. I ended up 2 months later working for Fred Simpson, Madison County DA in Huntsville. And you get into I lived at Warren House, as in the Warren Commission that covered up the Kennedy assassination. That was mind control used, but his father was ambassador and helped take down my dad. and helped kidnap me. So now I want to go to this. There was an addendum to my father's forced abdication. Addendum that made me, that said, I mean, it was a forced abdication, so it was illegal, his takedown. He was to come back. So anyway, Victoria II, there was the addendum. There was an addendum to my divorce to John Childers. I think it was final October 74, where he gave me anything he ever had, I'd get half of it, or had, and he was supposed to have a $100,000 life insurance policy upon his death. He worked for R.J. Reynolds. I'll say this real quick. I got back to Huntsville. I got back from trying to go out to Abilene, lured out there by his sister. Got back, had no apartment, had the antifreeze put in me a couple of weeks later, April Fool's Day of 80, carried across the state line. I was kept from my children. I was begging to go back to my babies in my apartment. And I'm leaving out all the things that this woman and all the other stuff. My ex-husband come find out was paying this woman. He always knew. He was CIA. He was told to marry me. So he always knew my name, my real identity. So he was paying her to keep me after the antifreeze was put in me. And I ended up finding out that he had married this woman, Twila Joyce Pelland. She lived at the apartments when I moved there to Laurelwood, and I didn't know it. And when my ex-husband came back, he worked for R.J. Reynolds, trucker, and the CIA. But supposedly he was just to stay there on occasions to try to help because my kids were getting sugar put in the lifters of the car, everything done to us. We were going to the law in Cobb County I won't get it all on here. She lived there, this woman did. So her and my ex-husband already had it planned, and God knows who else wanted me dead for doing the book, I thought. Later I found out about my real name. In 83, I found out late. But anyway, I found out they had married. And they married evidently right after the antifreeze was put in me, and I was forced to go by that woman back to Huntsville. You'd have to know what happened. It's too much to put on here. And I went back, and I'm going to say this. This woman tried, and I was trying to get, my jobs were shut down after I'd worked for the VA and the antifreeze put in me. I worked for computer science and for Golden Triangle, who was run by the CIA, by the way, publishing. But anyway, I couldn't get a job, so I ended up going back over there, and the bus driver, Greyhound or Trailway, actually paid for a night at the Barclay. It was winter when I went in there, and he put me up at the Barclay downtown hotel for a couple of nights, and was at least nice to me. He paid for it and left. I have to clarify that. Anyway. I called R.J. Reynolds. Terry was his name. And my husband had worked for Martin Brower also, but this was the dispatcher, and I was trying to find, I did not know that they still lived in my apartment. I didn't know it. I was told he moved. I didn't know he had married, any of that. But there was an addendum to my divorce also to him. And that's the point I want to make. There's a thread that links me back to my father and my real name, like the addendum to his forced abdication. And I'm Victoria II, heir to the British Crown. So my ex-husband and her are married. And when I came back, I'd taken my book, all this stuff with what little money I had, up to D.C. And being put out on the street at night in D.C. in the condition I was in is bad, and carrying the book. I logged it in at the post office at the White House. And the person that logged it in shocked me. He had a lapel saying he was Ronald Reagan's adopted son. I've forgotten his name, and so it was logged in there, and I handed him all this, a letter from the FBI. Well, I'm not going to tell all, you can't. I'll just say that I got back to Atlanta, and my ex-husband, I still wasn't aware that he was married.